Aatrix year-end reporting with Stage 100 Contractor with presenter Aline Cross. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone is in listen-only mode, so if you have questions, please type them into the questions box on the screen, and we will address them at the end of the session. If you need to step away, please do not put your phone on hold. If you have hold music, it will play for all the attendees. This webinar will be recorded, and we will email out a copy to everyone within a few days. I will now turn it over to you, Aline.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for your Aatrix year-end for Stage 100 Contractor. We're getting started with just a few additional housekeeping items, and these are going to be in menu 531 in the payroll menu. We're going to check some calculations to make sure that some of your deductions are set up with the W-2 box that's correctly filled out. From there, we're going to do the 537 window, which is your payroll audit. This should be done yearly anyway, but we're going to go through the steps of completing one. Then we're going to back up your data, and after that, we'll close the year. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in. After we go through the payroll, after we close the year, we'll go through the payroll tax step filing for processing the Aatrix W-2 forms, and that's in the 5-4 window. And then we'll show you the options of either online filing or print. The 1099s are the same process, except it's done through the vendor window. So we'll go to the vendor 4.4 setup window and check a couple of items in there, and then we'll go through the steps of processing those forms. So we're going to jump right in to the program. And we'll start right here, the 531 window, payroll calculations. We're going to look at the 401. One of the things that I want you to take note of is the W-2 box down here. You should try to fill this out. If it's a 401 or that type of thing, it will be reported on the W-2 box as well. There are a list of codes that are mandated by the Internal Revenue Service, and they are available in the handout you'll get. And you'll also see them when we get to the W-2 forms themselves, what those codes are. So any benefits you have in that manner, that's what you want to look out for. We'll save that, and from there, we're going to go to the payroll audit, which is 531. I'm sorry, 537. When you click on the audit, it's going to run through, and it's going to come up with a little note. Usually you're not going to have audit errors. You should perform this probably regularly, at least before you file quarterly tax returns. And definitely do it pretty soon before you get too close to the year end to be sure there are no errors in here. My records are showing one audit error and one quarter number check date mismatch with no uncompleted or unposted payroll. So we're going to print the audit report just to give you an idea of what it looks like, and we'll go through the steps of how to fix those items. So we'll do the print preview. Now here it's showing me that the quarter does not match the check date on this record, and it's showing me that I have an employee who's getting third-party pay, but his record doesn't show that. So just close that record. And the first thing we'll fix is we'll go to the employee record, and we'll go to GUI docs. What we're looking at is here the third-party sick pay button here. That has to be checked off if you have any employees that receive third-party sick pay. So we'll save his record, and then we're going to go to the payroll record. And we'll go up to the posted records, and we know it's number 84, so we can pull that right up, our record number. And here we have the period end and the check date are in October, which we know it's the fourth quarter, and the payroll was posted the third. So it's a simple fix. You just change your quarter, and you save it. And then you'll come back and run your audit one time. So this time when we hit audit, we're going to go with the repair. And it's still going to give us a message, and we have no items now. So we're in good shape. We can start with the closing process. The first thing we're going to do before we close, though, is make a backup. Most of you may do this regularly, but this is how you would find it. I have my folder saved as a 1 MB7 test folder, but yours is just going to be an MB7 folder. Inside that MB7 folder is your data folder. And if you right-click on it, you can go down and send to a compressed folder, and that just zips it up. And a lot of times we may ask you to send data to us this way, so you may already be familiar with this process. From there, you can either send it to a folder, a file, you can put it on a flash drive, or just save it on your desktop if you're comfortable with that. So, that's all there is to the backup. And now we'll go into closing the year. And I am going to go through all the steps of that. Not inexclusively. Whenever you do any kind of data, anything that is going to involve a lot of your data, you want to open exclusively so that nobody can be making changes at the same time that you're doing something like this. So we'll log in exclusively. We're going to go to Payroll, back to Payroll Management, and down to Close Payroll Year. You need to enter in for the archive. You can just put your 2014 payroll year in. If you have any image files, pictures, or anything, you can include those. At this point, you can also remove laid off or terminated employees from your regular. They'll stay in your archive, but they'll be removed from your daily database. So I'm not going to check these at this point. You might want to do it every couple of years, or maybe you do want to do it every year. So we hit Close Payroll. Now, it's telling you that records will be deleted. They're not really going to be deleted. They're going to be moved into the archive company, but they won't be in your daily company anymore. So we are going to continue. And it's one more warning, just to make sure. Yes. They want to warn you so that you don't do it before you're ready to, but you also want to do it before you start processing for the next step. And that's it. It's closed. So now when I go back into my payroll and I look at my payroll records, I have nothing in here. The same thing if you look at your employees. The earnings records are cleared out to start for the new year. So now to process the W-2s, we can't do that in here. We're going to go over, and we're going to change companies, and we're going to go to our archive company. And we're going to log in. And it's going to remind you repeatedly that you're in an archive company, but you'll also know that from the background. So we'll go to the payroll records again. But a lot of you are familiar with using the desktop here. This is for your daily transactions more. If you're doing anything like your calculations or your federal tax fund, you may find you need to use the menu on the left. So here we'll go down into payroll 5-4, and we're going to go to the federal form. And I'm going to turn off the reminder that we're in the archive company. And it's just a stage card. And here we'll hit the 2014 W-2. Make sure your year changes to 2014. And then you'll hit Run Report. And you're going to go through multiple steps here. One of which may be to update your file. Mine are already updated, so it didn't ask me to complete that step. That can take a few minutes, so you might want to check in before you want to run your W-2. Then we're going to, you can test drive, excuse me. You can test drive your first 25 employees, and you may want to do that just to make sure that the forms are going to process with all the information you need. But at this point, I'm going to just go ahead and process. So we'll hit next, and then we'll go through a series. It'll go through a series of verifying information, your federal ID number, etc. It's going to look for your company information. You can change anything in this at this time. From here, what filer are you? We're filing for the company or employer. If you have if you have state and local taxes, that's where these will come into play. Your state and tax name will be listed here, and your account number. If you don't have your account numbers in, it's not going to let you pass the screen until you fix them. So you can go right to the edit button and bring up the state, and it will add them in there. And you hit the next again. And now here's a series of data verification questions. Do you have any employees who are exempt from Medicare or Social Security? You want to make sure that you have checked off what you need here. For the most part, they'll be no. And we'll hit next. You can assign a control number to your forms. I just put a number 1 in the box. What type of employer are you? Most of you are going to be 941 filers. And you'll know that if you're filing your quarterly reports already, filing a 941. The type of employer is usually going to be non-apply. And we're checking the third-party sick pay because we know we have an employee with that. You may not have third-party sick pay. It's going to be related to if somebody's out on disability and receive money from a third party. You still have to account for their taxes, and you will receive a form from that entity with that information on it, so you can add it to their record. The next is we're using a single payroll data file, and now it's going to process. And here you get a grid, and it's going to show all your employees' Social Security numbers, their first and last names. If you slide the bar, it's going to show their addresses and personal information along here. So we're going to move it back over, and we're going to focus on some of these unassigned boxes. The first one is the 401 employer portion. So that does not go on the W-2, so we're going to leave that unassigned. And if you double-click, it's going to show you what's in that. So percent of gross, we know that's going to go in the box. This we also offer a plan flat amount. So we need to assign that to a box because it wasn't done in the payroll records. And here's where we were talking about this list. That's the IRS mandated code. Box, code D is an elective deferral to a 401 cash or deferred arranged account. So it's going to give you a warning that it's not going to change any of your values in these boxes. You don't really want it to, because that is what you paid your employee. And then over here it changed to putting it in box D instead of unassigned. From here, there's all of our other deductions are listed across here. Savings, state disability. Here's where our union dues comes into play. Now the union dues is going to be box 14 instead of 12 if you report that. And you can just have it show, it will type that title in there, union dues. And so then we're going to hit next. Now here's where some errors will come up in standard information. The Social Security numbers cannot begin with 9, so I can go back and correct that. And it highlights in red what's wrong. So I can fix that. I'll just make it the same as the rest of the employees. And we hit next step. And now what it does is it goes through your wages and column at a time, just to let you double check. At this point, it's saying, okay, we have all these unassigned columns. Do we want to leave them that way? And we're going to leave them. But now I'm going to get a warning that I have dollar amounts in those columns. Do I still want to leave them unassigned? And because of what they are, we are going to leave them unassigned because we know they don't belong on the W-2. So we'll continue without correcting. Now here's a nice little special deal from Aatrix. If you file online, they'll give you an early bird special if you file by January 15th. So you can look into Aatrix with that. There's some contact information in here for them. The next step is, do you want to file online? You can do it completely through Aatrix, or we're going to select other options. Now here, I'm going to print my employee W-2s, and I still get the option to e-file my federal and state. But we're going to uncheck those, and we're going to print our federal. I'm not going to print the state because we didn't have any. I'm going to print my employee, my federal, and my employer copies. And there's no charge for any of this because we're printing them. The only thing you will need is, if you're printing your W-2s, you will need the paper that it's supposed to be printed on. It is available through just different places. The Sage has a link through their documents that you can order the paper, and it comes with the full package with the envelopes and everything. I'm going to hit next. And again, they're going to give you the benefits of e-filing, but we're going to continue without e-filing. Do we want to include divider sheets? No, there's no need to. We'll hit next. And here's a little list of what it's going to print again, based on what I checked off. We're going to print the federal W-2s and 3s. We're going to print the employee W-2, an employee notice, and an employer W-2. You can print this little screen, and this is exactly what it's going to print. And it's just so you can check off as you print them if you want to. We'll hit next, and it's going to process our forms. And as it's working, you can see up here what it's getting ready to do. Report 1 of 5 is the employee W-2. It goes fairly quick depending on your employees. We only have 10, so this is right here in your corner is 10 pages, which means it's giving you 1 per employee, 1 page per employee, because these are the employee copies. You would mail the whole form to them. I'm going to hit next step, which is to print, but I'm not going to print them. And then it loads the next report, which is 2 of 5, which is the employer copy. Now the employer copy is 3 pages because we only need 1 little form for each person. We don't have to have the perforated paper. We just print it on plain paper. The next step is the federal copy is going to prepare. And this is the way the federal copy has to be filed, 2 forms to a page, so that's why we have 5 pages now. You can also file directly on this form as long as it's an authorized company like Aatrix that the form is accepted. You don't have to use the red copies, so you can print right from here. And with the next step, you get your federal W-3 and your package is ready to go. And that's just the 1 page that attaches. The next step is the employee notice. In the past, these were on the back of those forms that you had to fill in the blank forms. You can print it on the back if you're comfortable doing that, or you can just enclose one with each employee, and it just gives them an idea what all the codes and boxes are for in their W-2. And the next step, that's it, it's done. It comes back to this window. We can just close. Now you can go here to view history if you need to make any changes. And any form you've done in the past will be listed here until you literally remove them. And if I wanted to make any changes, I can just edit it. It's going to reopen it, and I can go back through the process again. So we're going to close at that point. Okay. The next step is our 1099. So the process is pretty much the same way, but the first thing we're going to do here is go to our vendor window, and we're going to look at some of our vendors. What we're looking at is the financial information tab. If you have a supplier, it's not as important as if you have a subcontractor, especially if they're not incorporated. You want to make sure you have your federal ID number, and the 1099 type is miscellaneous. You make sure that those 2 boxes are checked, and then it will process the 1099 for those employees, for those vendors. So from here we go to the 4.5 window, which is 1099. We're going to use the 1099 miscellaneous form. And we'll change the year to the 2014. And it's the same steps. We're going to run the report. It's going to ask you again if you want to test drive, but we're going to go ahead and process. Verifies your number, verifies your address. We're filing for the company again. Tax, it's not as necessary on the state forms. If you have any who received electronic, or if this is your final return. And then here you can truncate the recipient's ID numbers, but it will not do it if it's an employee ID number. So we're just going to hit next. And again, we're using a single database. And it's the same process. It's going to go through, make your little grid. Now here, because these are companies, we don't have first name, last name, and middle name. You may need that if it's a if it's not a corporation. You may need to put a name on the document, especially if they use a Social Security number. And here we have their earnings. So we're just going to hit next. It's going to check that it's a federal ID number. It's going to look for names, and we're going to say it's fine. It's going to verify the income boxes, verify the state, and again, you get the early bird discount special, the option to file, e-file, or print, and again, we're just going to print. Same message again. Do not include divider sheet. You can print this again to review. And this first one is your federal 1099 miscellaneous form, and you have one for each employee. And we only had subcontractor. We only have 4 vendors, so we only have 2 pages. And this is the federal copy. I'm going to print it down. The next step is the federal 1096, which goes along to the IRS with the federal forms. This is the recipient copy. Again, it's the same format as the W-2s. 1 page for each company. So we have 4 now. And there's some instructions for the back or to include with it. And then there's your employer copy. And again, you only have 1 page because we only have 4 vendors and they all fit on one. And that's it. It will go through those steps to reprint again. Okay. So that's pretty much the filing. Are there any questions at this time?
If you have a question, please type it into the questions box, and we'll be happy to answer it for you. Okay, we don't see any questions. Oh, wait, there's one. Can you see it, Aline, or you want me to read it to you?
Yes. Can you edit the amounts on the W-2s? Yes, you can. If we go back in, and we're going to view our history because we already processed them. So we'll click the box and edit. If you find that some of these amounts are wrong, you can go right into this form and type right over it, but you want to really make sure that you're putting the correct amounts in, because these do pull from your employee records that you have in the system. But any one of these can be typed over. Another question: should you pay your year-end quarterly payment before you back up an archive? You can do that either way. You want to definitely close out your payroll before you run your next year's payroll. So if you don't do your payroll taxes before you run your next payroll, then you definitely will have to close. But paying the taxes themselves, it doesn't matter if you pay which year, because that's not part of the employee record. Descriptions in the boxes. Next question is, can you edit the descriptions in the boxes? If it allows you in there, you can. Some of them you can. These are from the calculations record, though, so box 17, no, because you've called that the Pennsylvania tax. But when you have the unsigned boxes, then you can. It will not change. Are there any other questions?
One more that just came in.
Yes, the school district, the question is with different school districts, multiple locations. That would be processed through the local, and yes, there would be different locals in each. Under the local service tax, you can put the amounts and the codes in here so that they'll print. We don't have them on this, but if we had processed as a local entity, then it would have picked up those codes. Anyone else?
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any more questions. So, Eileen, if you could put up the last slide of the presentation. If you think of any questions after the seminar and you'd like to contact us, please feel free to do so. We would like to thank you again for attending today's Lunch and Learn session. We will be emailing out the presentation to everybody and with our contact information as well. Hope you all have a nice and safe holiday, and have a great day.